Back in high school, I had a lovely group of friends, a bunch of gals. We went to dinner, we went coffee. But there was just one thing about this friend group that I had. And it was that whenever it came to this specific friend who came in, let's call her Lara. So whenever Lara attended our gatherings, suddenly we could not talk about feminism. That was the one topic that whenever she arrived, we suddenly had to stop, silence immediately because she didn't believe in it. And once we did, she would begin fighting with us. It would cause a fight. So ultimately, the answer was just to not talk about it. And at that time, I believed in it. I said that there's no point in doing so. She's not going to end up believing in it anyway. And what will I be able to do just by talking to her about it? I might as well avoid a fight. Why go through this trouble? But the issue here is that ultimately, your voice will make a difference. Because that was the day I realized she wasn't understanding, she wasn't learning because no one bothered to teach her. No one bothered to tell her. We always only avoided it because no one wanted to get into a conflict. But at the end of the day, conflict is what you need to be able to progress. Conflict is necessary. And I'll be able to tell you this in a few ways. But before we begin, let me tell you about why society chooses to be silent. Now, nowadays, we live in a society that believes in this mentality, the not my problem mentality. And what this looks like is that we avoid anything that doesn't look like our business. We tell each other that that's not my problem to figure out. They'll talk about it. And we tell each other that since it doesn't concern us, why bother? We detach ourselves from the reality of an issue, and that is ultimately what allows problems to persist. By not by not solving that issue head on early on, because you believe it doesn't matter, because it doesn't bother you, that allows it to continue, to persist, to progress. Now, I'll tell you about this really funny thing. Not so funny when you hear the story, but it was a really interesting piece of information that I learned from my psychology class. And it was the Milgram's experiment. And what happened in this experiment was that participants were told to come in and ask questions to one another. And every time the other person got the question wrong, you had to send an electric shock to the other person. Now, here's the catch. The other person getting shocks started screaming, crying, shouting. But because they were told that they couldn't stop the experiment, they continued to follow these instructions. They continued to hurt the other person. Now, in this scenario, let me ask you, are they still a victim or are they just a perpetrator? Because by choosing to be silent in that moment, to continue sending these electric shocks, they became the villain. So this is what I want to tell you from this story is that sometimes silence doesn't help. Silence here isn't neutral. It is inadvertently making you the perpetrator just by being silent and condoning the actions of others. Now I'm going to tell you a second story, something that happened in my hometown here in Malaysia, where someone decided to speak up. They actively chose to use their voice, and that was in a carnival, a festival, a music concert. And what happened here was the 1975, a lovely band came to Malaysia and gave a concert, and he ended up getting banned from it because during this concert, he advocated for LGBTQ plus rights and ended up kissing his own band member on stage. Now, what he did here, he knew the consequences. He knew that he would get kicked out. He knew he would be banned. But he chose to speak about it. He chose to advocate on the stage. He chose to use his platform. He didn't make a mess out of anything. He made a mess out of something he believed in. And that ties it all back here today. Because to be really vocal, not every situation requires it. Not every situation needs you to be loud, and not every situation needs you to be quiet. It is knowing when to choose the right moment to talk, to speak, and also the moments where you need to be quiet, to listen. And that is ultimately the lesson here that I want you to take away from this. That sometimes one solution doesn't work for everything. So that day, yesterday, after the event meeting with my friends, I spoke with my friend, the one that doesn't believe about feminism. I spoke with her. So today, let me reframe my topic for you. Silence is the ultimate weapon of power. It isn't. Your voice is the ultimate weapon of power. Thank you.